Why, I'm glad I walked away from her. I didn't fall in love with Kiera all at once. It happened slowly, like a spider weaving a web while pretending it was a safety net. She made me feel chosen, special, like I finally had someone who saw my worth. At least that's the lie I believed. She praised my intelligence in public, but in private she corrected everything about me, how I spoke, how I walked, how I laughed. If I showed frustration, she'd whisper, "You're overreacting again. This is why people think you're unstable." I wasn't unstable, just confused. I kept apologizing, even when I didn't know what I'd done wrong. She told her friends I was brilliant but emotionally fragile. She told my family she was helping me manage my outbursts. I didn't see it then, but she was planting seeds, patiently reputational poison. I thought she was protecting me. I thought she loved me. I was wrong. She was preparing everyone to doubt me. Alden was my younger brother, but he always acted like I stole something from him. Growing up, he competed with every grade, hobby, and friend I ever had. When my tech startup finally gained attention, he suddenly became supportive, offering advice I never asked for. Kiera encouraged it. "We're a team now," she said, including him in business discussions I didn't realize were becoming meetings without me. They studied my ideas together. They pushed decisions without consulting me, then blamed my lack of focus when something went wrong. Whenever I confronted them, Alden would sigh dramatically, as if exhausted by my emotions. Kiera would place a gentle hand on my shoulder and say, "See, this is what I mean. You misinterpret things. We're trying to help you." Help me? They were stripping my authority piece by piece. But I was too busy apologizing, too desperate to be grateful. I didn't realize it then, but they weren't supporting me. They were rehearsing how to control my life. One morning, over breakfast, Kiera slid papers toward me. A simple restructuring form, she called it, so the company would better protect my intellectual property. She smiled like she was doing me a favor. Alden acted like he already knew everything. I hesitated. The document seemed long, but she kissed my cheek and said, "Trust me, I'm only watching your back. You know you can't handle legal stuff when you panic." I signed, without reading, without questioning. I believed she loved me. I believed she wanted to help. Later, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "You did the right thing. Now we can build something stronger." I felt proud, safe even. I had no idea I had legally surrendered control of my own company. I didn't read what I had signed that day, but they did, and they celebrated privately when I left for work. Love isn't blind. Manipulation blinds you and hands someone else the pen. It started with subtle comments Kiera made at dinners. She would explain my silence as emotional strain or tell her friends, "He works too hard, and his anxiety gets the best of him." I didn't think anything of it until people began treating me like cracked glass. Investors looked at me with cautious sympathy. Employees avoided criticism around me. Everyone used gentle tones like I might explode at any moment. Alden started handling presentations to take pressure off me. I thought they were helping. I didn't realize they were branding me unstable. I found out a therapist we never visited had apparently evaluated me for mood regulation problems. Kiera must have leaked false documents. She had prepared a fake medical narrative. While I worked tirelessly to grow the company, she was working just as hard to convince the world I couldn't handle it. Everyone believed her, everyone trusted her, even I did. That's how abuse works. She convinced me I was broken. It happened by accident, a buzzing phone on the kitchen counter. Kiera was in the shower. I wasn't the type to snoop. I never had to, but the preview notification stopped me cold. It was a message from Alden. "We need to move fast before he figures it out." My chest tightened. I opened the thread, dozens of messages, conversations about reorganizing the company, keeping me in a manageable position. Statements like, "Once he's out, we can secure full investment." They were planning to remove me, legally, financially, and socially. But the final message shattered everything. We just need one more emotional incident on record. They weren't waiting for me to fail. They were engineering my breakdown. I dropped the phone, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. She wasn't helping me. She wasn't protecting me. I realized something terrifying. They didn't want me unstable. They needed me unstable. The moment I heard the bathroom door open, I grabbed her phone and slid it back where it was. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. If I accused her without proof, she would twist it, call me paranoid, emotional, unstable. And that was exactly what they needed. So I acted normal. I forced a smile. I asked her how her day had been, complimented her cooking, even kissed her forehead before bed. She studied my face as if searching for a crack. I prayed she didn't find one. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to impress her or please her. I was studying her. Every word she spoke felt scripted, designed to trigger a reaction. And I swallowed every insult like poison I refused to show symptoms from. That night I didn't sleep beside a woman I loved. I slept beside a predator. And she thought I didn't know. The next morning, I pretended to leave for work, then parked 2 blocks away. Instead of going to the office, I visited the therapist. She claimed I had been seeing for emotional regulation issues. I walked in expecting a waiting room or at least a business card. There was nothing. No office, no building, just a clothing boutique where the address should have been. The receptionist had never heard of the name. My stomach turned cold. She hadn't exaggerated anything, she had fabricated it. She never wanted me to get help. She wanted a diagnosis to weaken me legally and socially. A made-up therapist gave her a fake medical narrative, and I unknowingly helped her write it with my silence. As I stepped back into my car, the truth felt heavier than betrayal. Kiera didn't just plan to take everything from me. She planned to make the world pity her while she did it. She didn't want to leave me. She wanted to destroy me. That afternoon, there was an investor meeting I wasn't invited to. Kiera said it was too stressful for me to attend, but I showed up anyway. I walked into the conference room and saw Alden presenting my work, my prototype, my concept, my years of sleepless nights. Every slide had his name attached, not mine. No one even looked surprised. They were prepared for it. I realized then that they had slowly erased me from my own company long before today. They didn't need to force me out. They had already replaced me. When I stood to confront them, Alden put a hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Don't embarrass yourself. You're not well." And just like that, everyone in the room looked at me with pity instead of suspicion. They didn't think I was a founder defending his work. They thought I was a fragile man interrupting a meeting. That's when I understood, if I reacted, I lost. If I stayed silent, I still lost. Unless I walked away. That night I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I simply walked into our shared office, printed every document proving my contributions, transferred copies to a private drive, and emailed myself timestamped files. Kiera walked in, smug, expecting tears or anger. "Are you okay?" she asked sweetly, like a nurse visiting a patient. I looked at her like she didn't matter anymore. For the first time, I didn't apologize. I didn't defend myself. I didn't try to convince her I was enough. I just said, "I'm done." She blinked, shocked. She expected me to fight, to break down, to prove her narrative. She needed evidence I was unstable, and I denied her the performance. "You're making a mistake," she said. "No," I answered calmly. "I'm just not playing your game anymore." She thought she won. She thought she crushed me completely. Walking away looked like surrender. It was actually the beginning of her collapse. Leaving was the smartest thing I ever did, not because I escaped them, but because they couldn't function without me. Alden didn't understand the software architecture. Kiera didn't understand the finances and coding valuations. They had power but no ability. Within 2 months, investors withdrew, projects stalled, Deadlines were missed. Clients demanded answers. And suddenly the narrative they created, that I was too fragile to lead, came crashing down the moment they tried to replace me. Their empire depended on the man they tried to erase. Meanwhile, I built a new company quietly, legally separated, patented under my name only. When people realized where the real innovation came from, they followed me without hesitation. Kiera and Alden didn't lose because I fought them. They lost because I stopped fighting. When you walk away from manipulators, they don't collapse because you destroy them. They collapse because they can't survive without someone to drain. I stopped crying the day I realized tears never changed anyone but me. They ruined mascara, but they never ruined wicked hearts. I started practicing my smile in the mirror, not the old hopeful one, not the weak one begging for love. A new smile. One that hid my scars like makeup hides bruises. I cut my hair shorter, sharper, like I was slicing off pieces of my past. I wore colors they said didn't suit me, deep blues, daring reds. I wasn't trying to look pretty, I was learning how to look untouchable. Aunt Celine noticed the change first. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Uncle Vernon quietly placed a brand new chef's knife on the counter next to me, a silent acknowledgement, a silent weapon. I knew I had to be patient. Revenge wasn't loud. It simmered slowly like broth thickening over time. I wouldn't explode. I would cook her downfall carefully, perfectly, and serve it cold. Uncle Vernon let me take over the oven that day, something he rarely allowed anyone else to do. I baked a cinnamon honey tart, simple, but it carried warmth, memory, sweetness that hugged the tongue. When the crust cooled, I ran a thin glaze over it, dusted powdered sugar like fresh snow. Aunt Celine tasted it first. She tried to hide it, but her face softened. She sent a photo to her investor friend, bragging. I didn't need her praise, the tart itself was my message. I could build something with my bare hands, no matter who tried to destroy me. As customers filtered in, they devoured it within an hour. One woman asked if she could pre-order for next week. Another demanded a menu item named after it. That moment didn't feel like victory, it felt like warning. If I could become this good under pain, what would I be when free? Celine pretended my growing popularity didn't bother her. But I saw it in the way she started hovering next to me, watching every sprinkle of sugar, every swirl of cream, like she was waiting for me to fail. I caught her subtly changing my seasoning measurements when she thought I wasn't looking. She burned 2 orders while trying to copy me, then blamed the oven. A customer asked specifically for my tart. She froze, smiled too widely, and said, "Of course, our baker will handle it." Our baker, she couldn't even call me by name. I realized something then. Powerful people don't fear competition, only exposure. If customers knew who I really was, who the real talent was, Celine would no longer be the star of her perfect kitchen. She had built her reputation on stolen recipes, lies, and manipulation. And now I was the proof she didn't create anything. She just fed on people who could. One evening, a tall man walked in, broad shoulders, calm voice, smelling faintly of roasted coffee beans. His name was Mr. Farron, owner of a luxury hotel chain. He tasted my tart, took a pause that felt like a lifetime, then asked who the baker was. Celine opened her mouth, but Uncle Vernon gestured toward me. "She is." Mr. Farron's eyes scanned me thoughtfully, like he saw something Celine never wanted anyone to notice. He offered a proposal, a partnership deal with our bakery, exclusive desserts crafted by me. Celine smiled through stiff lips, shaking his hand before I could even process it. She answered for me, accepted for me, claimed she would handle all paperwork and creative guidance. Just like that. She had no intention of letting me grow, only of using me. But she made one mistake. She signed her name. That meant there would be documents, and documents could expose thieves. I knew then that I needed proof, physical, undeniable proof of her stealing my recipes. No more memories, no more accusations she could twist into lies. I began copying every ingredient list, every instruction I wrote, keeping duplicates hidden in a sealed bag beneath a loose kitchen tile. I saved recordings of her suggestions that were actually my creations. I even saved spoiled batches she ruined, then blamed on me. I wasn't waiting for karma. I was building a case. Every night I sharpened the chef's knife Uncle Vernon gave me, not because I wanted violence, but because it reminded me of power. Sharp things only hurt when mishandled. I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I was going to carve the truth out of her false perfection, slice through the lies she wrapped around herself like frosting. She thought she owned me. She had no idea I was preparing to cut away her entire world. It began with a small complaint. A customer insisted the tart she ordered tasted different, too bitter, too thick. Celine had tried to recreate it behind my back, using cheaper ingredients to cut costs and boost profit. The woman wasn't just disappointed, she was offended. "What happened to your baker?" she demanded loudly. Customers started murmuring, realizing someone else might be responsible for the desserts they'd praised for months. Uncle Vernon quietly handed me the batch Celine had tampered with. He didn't say a word, but the look in his eyes said everything. "It's time." Celine tried to smile it off, claiming I was experimenting too much. Lies slipped out of her mouth so smoothly that she believed them before she finished speaking. But lies rot faster than spoiled dairy. People began watching us more closely. And in kitchens, once trust spoils, it spreads faster than mold. She didn't know it yet, but that single complaint was the first crumble of her perfect slice. That weekend, I accidentally left an open recipe notebook on the prep table, a clean, neat page with my tart ratios and techniques written clearly, intentionally. Celine found it, and her eyes almost sparkled with hunger. She thought she had stolen something valuable. She immediately tried to replicate it for an investor tasting scheduled the next day. I watched her from a distance, pretending to be distracted by dough. She followed every step perfectly, yet she failed miserably. Because the notebook was a trap. I had written ratios slightly wrong, reversed the glaze timing, and replaced one ingredient with a decoy that turned bitter when heated. She proudly served the failed tart to Mr. Farron. His expression twisted in confusion. Aunt Celine's face turned pale. She stammered excuses. I kept my eyes lowered to hide my smile. When you steal from a genius, you get only the pieces they leave behind. And I had left crumbs. Poisoned crumbs. After the incident, Celine started losing grip. She snapped at staff for simple mistakes, slammed doors, and hovered obsessively over every dish I made. She tried to ban me from baking unsupervised. Uncle Vernon stepped in. "She stays," he said. It was the first time he raised his voice, calm but sharp like a cleaver hitting bone. Celine's eyes burned with humiliation. She finally began realizing what losing control feels like. One investor canceled their partnership inquiry. Customers asked for me by name. Her name started disappearing from conversations. She tried to reassert dominance, exaggerating her authority, correcting my work unnecessarily, even destroying batches out of spite. And every time she ruined something, she blamed me. But the kitchen had begun noticing. Silence became my greatest witness. People didn't defend me with words. They defended me with their eyes, their doubt, their changing allegiance. Power is only loud when it's afraid. And Celine's voice had never been louder. One day, a woman walked into the bakery, eyes sunken from exhaustion yet burning with purpose. She introduced herself as my father's attorney. My blood turned cold. She whispered that Celine had returned years ago claiming we wanted nothing to do with him, that we disowned him. She took my inheritance, a small but valuable apartment he left me, and sold it. She pocketed every cent. The woman handed me copies of the documents Celine had forged, including a signature that wasn't mine. I stared at the papers, my hands trembling, not with sadness this time, but with rage so quiet it felt surgical. Aunt Celine had never taken me in out of pity or family duty. She had silenced me to profit from my poverty. She didn't rescue me. She robbed me and buried the evidence in tears. And now, someone had dug it up. I wasn't just going to expose her in the kitchen. I was going to expose her life. I spent the next days planning like I was perfecting a new recipe. Step by step, ingredient by ingredient. I photographed every stolen document, watermark intact. I recorded Celine screaming irrational orders, insulting customers, ruining batches. I collected anonymous statements from staff. I wasn't seeking pity or sympathy. I was gathering proof of cruelty, fraud, manipulation, and theft. I even prepared a special dessert for her upcoming meeting with investors, something flawless, something only I could bake. Not to impress them, to make them curious, to make them ask who made it. My goal wasn't to humiliate her, it was to make the truth undeniable. Revenge wasn't rage, it was discipline. It was patience baked into strategy. I wasn't cooking destruction, I was preparing justice. And soon, the world would taste what she had turned me into. A sweet girl hardened into something sharp, something unforgettable, something she could never consume or control again. The day of the investor meeting felt colder than usual. Even the oven seemed silent, waiting. I arrived early, preparing a flawless raspberry creme torte. While I worked, I felt eyes behind me, Celine, lurking like a starving predator. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. She needed me, and she knew it. When the investors arrived, she greeted them as if she owned the air they breathed. She presented my dessert like it was her masterpiece. For a few seconds, it almost worked, until one of them asked who designed the recipe. Celine froze. She tried to speak, but the lie stuck in her throat. Before she could claim ownership, Uncle Vernon cleared his throat. "You should ask him," he said, pointing to me. Silence cracked across the room, followed by curiosity, followed by suspicion. Celine laughed weakly, calling it a collaborative creation. And that was the moment the first spoonful of truth melted on their tongues. Investors like honesty more than sweetness. They asked for portfolio samples, design histories, and recipe logs. Celine fumbled. She tried to pull out notebooks she'd copied from me, forgetting they contained the failed ratios. Her lies were stale and they smelled rot. The questions grew precise, surgical. Why does your handwriting change? Why are your ratios inconsistent? How did he end up here with no public credit? Celine's mask crumbled and desperation leaked through her voice. She tried dragging me down, claiming I was just a helper. That was the moment Uncle Vernon stepped forward again. "He is the reason this bakery exists," he said firmly. Then he added the final cut, "and we are formally registering every recipe under his name." Investors exchanged looks. Some nodded with approval. Others quietly marked her off their interest lists. Celine realized she wasn't losing a deal. She was losing her bakery, ingredient by ingredient. After the meeting, I stepped outside with the attorney waiting near the bakery. Together, we entered. Celine's eyes widened when she saw her again. She tried to walk out, but the attorney blocked her. She read aloud the forged inheritance papers, the fraud signatures, the property sale. The room filled with a nausea stronger than spoiled milk. Staff stopped working. Customers froze. Even the mixers seemed to pause. Celine shouted that she did it for the family. Ridiculous. She didn't even flinch when my name trembled through those documents. She never cared. She never intended to care. She used my silence like seasoning sprinkled on everything she gained. Then the attorney placed the lawsuit file on the counter. Everyone saw the charges: theft, fraud, manipulation, exploitation. The bakery wasn't just a workplace anymore. It was a witness. Celine didn't respond with words this time. She responded with fear. That evening she tried to apologize. She begged, she cried, she said she needed me. Maybe she did, but only as a product, a tool, a commodity that baked her success. I watched her crumble like overworked dough. She wasn't powerful now, she wasn't respected, she wasn't cruel, she was simply exposed. I didn't scream, I didn't insult her, I didn't humiliate her. I simply said, "You took my father from me, you took my name from me, and now I'm taking mine back." I cleaned my station one last time, polished the counters, wiped down every surface I had ever worked on. I left the bakery smelling sweet, because revenge doesn't have to stink. Before walking out, I left one small note on the counter: "Real chefs don't steal." Then I closed the door behind me. Now I own my own small patisserie across town. It's humble, quiet, and honest. Customers come for flavor, not for show. They ask for my name, not someone else. The apartment that was stolen from me is being reclaimed through court. My father's memories are finding their way home, one document at a time. Celine. She's facing investigation, losing investors, struggling to rebuild a reputation no one trusts anymore. Uncle Vernon visits my shop sometimes. Not to apologize, there's nothing to apologize for. He comes to taste what freedom tastes like. People think revenge is about breaking others. It is. Real revenge is reclaiming what you were denied. It's leaving them behind with nothing left to steal. I'm glad I walked away from her, because sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's as soft as powdered sugar, quiet, inevitable, and impossible to remove once it settles.